By virtue of the powers granted by the Privy Council, the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland is this day holding a congregation for the conferment of degrees. Our ceremony begins with the conferment of an honorary degree. The authority of degree awarding powers resides with the Academic Board of the Conservatoire, which may confer an honorary degree of doctor upon any person it considers has made a truly outstanding contribution to their profession and whose achievements richly deserve high distinction and recognition. I now invite Lord Valence of Tummel, Chairman of the Board of Governors, to introduce the sponsor for the honorary graduate.
Principal Sharkey, I now invite David Watkin to sponsor Ralph Kirshbaum for the degree of Doctor of Music.
My Lord Chairman, Governors of the Conservatoire, members of the Academic Board, ladies and gentlemen. When we prepare our students here at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, one of the things that we encourage them to think about for themselves is a broad portfolio of possible destinations that they might go on to enjoy. We don't want to limit their imaginations. We don't want them to limit their own imaginations with thoughts of following a particular career path like being a soloist or an orchestral player. We want them to take their blinkers off and imagine any possibility. So the notion of a portfolio career it's very difficult to illustrate it better than the career of the man standing in front of me now, Ralph Kirshbaum. When in 1970 a young Texan went to Moscow and came home with a prize from the famous Tchaikovsky competition, you might imagine a certain career path in front of him, which would perhaps be trotting out 3 or 4 concertos every year and being a soloist, and then maybe semi-retirement as a teacher a few years later, and then retiring. In fact, what Ralph has done is he's run a career in parallel, which others might have run in sequence. So at the same time as traveling the world, playing concertos, giving premieres, he's also been a chamber music player and a teacher, an extremely dedicated teacher. And it's for this particularly extraordinary breadth of application and imagination and generosity that we would like to honour him today. I first heard the name Kirshbaum when I was a boy listening to Radio 3 at home, sort of up against the speaker in maybe a nerdy way. And there was the famous trio with Peter Frankel and George Pauk that Ralph Kirshbaum played with for decades. Not the smashing out concertos, far from it. Delicate Ravel, beautiful Beethoven, muscular Brahms, an incredible variety of different styles of music making. He's collaborated over the years with some extraordinary household name artists. Pinker Zuckerman, Joshua Bell, Yefim Bronfman, Midori, Lang Lang, Vadim Repin, Joseph Swenson, who's another of our friends here, and the Emerson and Takacs quartets, to name but a few of those. When he celebrated his 70th birthday recently, he decided to do that by playing all the Beethoven sonatas. And we were lucky enough to have him here playing one of those recitals. And not only did he share that extraordinary music making with Shai Wozner with us, but he also stayed to give a masterclass for our cellists. And that was something that I particularly, as a cellist myself, found extraordinarily uplifting and moving, as well as just interesting. It was a great opportunity to see a generous teacher sharing openly and freely without any kind of top-down teaching at students, sharing his years of wisdom and experience so generously and warmly with our students, and we were all very, very grateful for that. I want to just mention a couple of events briefly that demonstrate Ralph's outlook on life. One of them is that in 1988 he founded the Manchester International Cello Festival. Now, the extraordinary thing about that festival was its inclusivity. It was an extraordinary gathering of cellists from all over the world, not just of cellists, but of many different kinds of cellists. Like any serious endeavor, whether it's a sport or an arts endeavor, there are always going to be different camps, different ways of thinking about things, different ways of doing things. Some cellists would use steel strings, some would use gut strings. This cello festival became an incredibly encompassing melting pot for cellists of different hues from all over the world to meet each other, to hear each other's students. And it was a great testimony to Ralph's own breadth of outlook and the many friendships that he had with so many different types of cellists of different hues. When he moved to Los Angeles in 2008, he started an equivalent event there, and the headline in the LA Times was "Cellos Take Over Los Angeles," which I rather enjoyed as a kind of science fiction fan myself. Ralph's been to Scotland many times. He's been here to teach over the years many times. He's performed here many times. When he came to Scotland to record with the RSNO, the Elgar and Walton concertos, and he came to Edinburgh to record the Barber Concerto with the Scottish Chamber Orchestra. And only 2 years ago, I think I had the chance to hear Ralph play that again with the Scottish Chamber Orchestra many years later. I just want to finish by quoting Ralph back at him, if that's all right. It's from a little YouTube video where he's talking to young students. And he's talking about something that I'm very interested in. It's the divide between technical and musical. Whether you can make that division or whether these two things are really just different sides of the same coin. And Ralph said this, and I thought it summed it up better than anything I'd ever read. "I'm not saying you shouldn't be concerned with playing properly and playing in tune. Of course we are. But being obsessed by it to the extent that you lose sight of what the musical phrase is that you are actually playing, I don't think that's going to appeal to anybody. You want to play well, but you want to say something too." I therefore ask the principal to confer the degree of Doctor of Music, honoris causa, upon Ralph Kirshbaum.
Ralph Kirshbaum, by virtue of the powers granted by the Privy Council to the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland to confer an honorary degree of the Conservatoire upon any person it may deem worthy of such distinction, and in the name of the Academic Board, I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Music, honoris causa.
Ladies and gentlemen, a performance by Balázs Renches in celebration of the work of Dr. Ralph Kirshbaum.
And now I'd like to invite Dr. Ralph Kirshbaum to address the audience.
What a day. Principal Sharkey, members of the Board of Governors and faculty of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, graduating students, family, friends, and honored guests. First, let me express my profound appreciation for the honor you have bestowed upon me today. I was the age of most of you when I was presented with a memorable lesson by my mentor at Yale University, Aldo Pariso, the great Brazilian cellist and pedagogue. I had just been fortunate enough to win first prize at an important national competition, and at my next lesson, he greeted me with congratulations and the following advice. Don't get a big head, Ralph. This is just a drop in the bucket. What a wonderful metaphor for the life we choose for ourselves, putting drops in an imaginary bucket as we move from one challenge to another. I will try to keep this perspective even in the face of today's great honor. But I think even Aldo Pariso, who in 2 weeks will reach the age of 98 and still maintains a full class of students at Yale University, would consider it worthy of a pint. Furthermore, coming from a family predominated by musicians and lawyers, my parents can rest peacefully beyond the grave, knowing that at last there is a doctor in the house. Most importantly, you have provided me with an affirmation of my chosen career path, which was challenged at an early stage, first by my high school counselor, who, on learning that I intended to major in music at university, replied in astonishment, "But Ralph, you're smart." And some years later by my family dentist, who in reply to hearing the details of an upcoming concert tour offered, Well, that sounds like fun, but when are you going to settle down and get a job? So with that as a backdrop, let me say that it is a great pleasure and privilege to have been invited to speak to you, the graduating class of 2016, on this truly significant day in your lives. Thinking back to my own graduation nearly 50 years ago, I can assure you that while you might not remember a word of what I say today, you will long remember your years of study here at the RCS, the challenges met and the setbacks overcome, the lessons learned, the mentors who guided you, and perhaps most importantly, the friends with whom you shared so many life experiences. You stand ready to move to the next stage of your lives, whatever that may be, on the threshold of adventures beyond your imagination, deservedly proud to declare yourselves graduates of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. I would like to encourage you to step back just for a moment and to ask yourselves, as I must admit I've often asked myself, why an address such as this, at least in America, is referred to as a commencement address. In its origins, hundreds of years ago, it was an oration, often in Latin, given by an honored student to reflect the importance of oratory in higher education. In its more modern form, dating from the late 19th century, a guest speaker such as myself, often as myself, with few obvious oratorical skills, was called upon to mark this important occasion with reflections of a celebratory and advisory nature. But why a commencement address for a ceremony celebrating the end of a course of study? My answer to you is simple. While we are here to celebrate your notable achievement in completing your course of study, we are here as well to remind you that this is a momentous beginning to a lifetime of learning and opportunity. It is not unlike the magical interwoven nature of musical phrases in the creative imagination of great composers like Bach and Beethoven, wherein a note or a chord can at the same time serve as the end of one phrase and the beginning of another. And I would suggest to you that this potential for a new beginning is the most exciting part of today's celebration. And perhaps beneath the surface, the most frightening and unsettling as well, for it would only be expected that while you stand here today full of hopes and dreams, you have your share of anxieties and uncertainties as well. After all, you look out today upon a world in political upheaval, a world more than ever in need of a moral compass, a world in need of spiritual and cultural ballast. And so you face a choice, the first of many choices that will present themselves as you move forward. Turn your back in fear of rejection or failure, or accept the challenge of a culture under siege, using your imagination, your creativity, and your energy to stand strong and to give expression to your musical impulses. Use as your inspiration Rowena Cade. I dare say that none of you are familiar with her name. Actually, do any of you know who Rowena Cade is? No. Well, you're about to. She was born in a village near Derby in 1893, the daughter of a mill owner. She moved to Cornwall after the First World War, building a house overlooking the sea near Land's End. She loved theater, and in response to the need of a local theater company for a facility to stage a production of The Tempest, she built with her own hands, literally her own hands, together with those of her gardeners, a stone amphitheater chiseled into a cliff behind her house. The theater was all but destroyed during the Second World War. Undeterred, she worked again with her own hands on its reconstruction every winter until she was well into her 80s. By the time of her death in 1993, the legacy of her Minack Theater was firmly in place, a lasting and loving testament to an unsung heroine. This is but one of countless stories of determination and perseverance carrying the day in the face of cultural vacuousness and/or indifference. Consider the dream of José Antonio Abreu, the founder of El Sistema in Venezuela, whose impassioned advocacy created a model that has transformed tens of thousands of lives in his native country, and crossed continents to serve as an inspiration for Systemic Scotland and a similar program in my present home of Los Angeles. The energy and creative zeal of individuals can be linked to founding of music schools, concert halls, and festivals throughout the world. So here you are, having arrived at the brink of a new beginning, some of you certain and some less certain of what your next step will be. Be patient, be positive, and don't be unduly afraid of failure as you pursue your dreams. We all experience failure, and through it, learn what is truly important and valuable in our lives. Never forget the formidable tools you have acquired during the course of your tenure here at the RCS. You have emerged as literate and accomplished musicians in whose hands we entrust our future. Above all, you have been introduced to the art of learning. Go forth into the world of adventure and possibility that awaits you with the crucial realization that this is not, and I stress, is not the end of your learning, but only the beginning. As Gregor Piatigorsky, the great Russian cellist whose chair I am proud to hold at the University of Southern California Thornton School of Music in Los Angeles, remarked, "It took me my whole life to learn how much I don't know." Remember one other thing as you embark on your journey through life. Each of you, and I stress, each of you, is an important and invaluable contributor to the cultural fabric of our society. Talent is indispensable, of course, but of equal importance when faced with the rapid rate of change which characterizes our modern society is the adaptability and resilience that comes through the application of intelligence, imagination, intuition, and initiative. In my long teaching career, I have on occasion, and with some sadness, seen students with the greatest talent falter, while students with lesser talent, but with these sustaining qualities of intelligence, imagination, intuition, and initiative, have thrived. I want to share with you comments given recently by Steven Spielberg to this year's graduating class at Harvard University. I was quite struck by this. He said, "For the first 25 years of our lives, we are trained to listen to voices that are not our own." Excuse me, parents. Parents and teachers fill our heads with wisdom and information. Later, he said, I came to realize that the internal voice I needed to listen to was hardly audible. But then I started paying more attention, and my intuition kicked in. And I want to be clear that your intuition is different from your conscience. They work in tandem, but here's the distinction. Your conscience shouts, "Here's what you should do." And your intuition whispers, "Here's what you could do." Said Spielberg, listen to that voice. Nothing will define your character more than that. Here we stand together on this momentous day, your graduation, and together, our commencement. Yes, for me too, it is a time of a new beginning. Just 4 months ago, I had the pleasure of performing in this very hall, at which time my 70th birthday was ushered in to the unique sound of bagpipes. Interestingly, in the Jewish religion, one begins counting anew on reaching the age of 70 years and 10. Together on this commencement day, let us consider with fresh eyes and hearts the profundity, complexity, and beauty of our universe. If you believe, as I do, that the gift of culture is intended to uplift souls and open minds, then we must resolve to stand together and find a way to cut through the frenetic noise of modern life in order to convey this gift to future generations. It could well prove to be the most important thing we could ever give them. I will leave you with the image of an amazing and profound woman whose life was a testament to the power of music. Alice Hertz Sommer was born in 1903 and lived the second half of her life in London, where she died 3 years ago at the age of 110. At the time, she was the world's oldest Holocaust survivor and also the world's oldest pianist. She said of her time living in terror and starvation in the Theresienstadt camp, "Whenever I knew that I had a concert, I was happy. Music is magic." We performed in the council hall before an audience of 150 old, hopeless, sick, and hungry people. They lived for the music. It was like food to them. As it was for Alice. During her many, many years in London, music formed an essential part of the rhythm of her life. She practiced for hours every day until the end, finding more meaning and beauty in music with every passing year. Alice lost most of her family and her entire world in the camps. She faced things no one ever should have to, and yet she lived a life of gratitude and profound happiness, because in music she found beauty and true joy. May each of you find the same as you embark on your life's journey. I urge you to bear in mind the words of the Roman philosopher Seneca. As is a tale, so in life. It is not how long it is, but how good it is that matters. Thank you.
I now invite Lord Valence of Tummel, Chairman of the Board of Governors, to sponsor Sir Sandy Crombie for the award of Companion Emeritus of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Conservatoire's Board of Governors created the award of Companion Emeritus to acknowledge outstanding individuals, staff, governors, or trustees who are nearing retirement or who have recently retired and who have made an outstanding contribution to the Conservatoire over a period of time. We've set the bar for the award of Companion Emeritus very high, but it will come as no surprise to those who know him that our recently retired Vice Chair, Sir Sandy Crombie, cleared that bar with meters to spare. Sandy joined the board in 2007, and over the past 9 years, the Conservatoire has benefited enormously from his knowledge, expertise, and engagement. The Conservatoire is a philanthropic institution. It was founded by the Victorian philanthropists who put up the original capital. Its form of teaching is based upon the concept of philanthropia, the love of humanity, which ran through ancient Greek education. And our lay governors are philanthropists too, in the sense of giving freely of their time and expertise. Those lay governors are often neither seen nor heard, but without their contribution, today's outstanding graduates would simply not have been able to enjoy the unique and world-class experience that the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland now affords. Sandy has been a member of the board's Buildings, Finance, and Remuneration Committees, and he played an absolutely pivotal role in the commissioning of our wonderful facility at Spiers Locks, the Wallace Studios, which houses our modern ballet and production arts programs. But more than that, and perhaps much more than that, over the years, he's acted as wise counsel to the previous principal and to members of the Conservatoire's senior management team. and he's kept his chairman in his place when the need arose, and no mean feat in itself. These are largely unseen roles, but they underpin the prime academic and teaching aspects of the institution. There's a lot written about standards expected in public life, and I'd like to quote here from the Code of Good Practice to which all higher education institutions subscribe. Members of governing bodies should at all times conduct themselves in accordance with accepted standards of behavior in public life, which embrace selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, honesty, and leadership. There is no better embodiment of those ideals than Sir Sandy Crombie. And with that in mind, I would like to do the formality. Sandy, on behalf of the Board of Governors, I confer upon you companionship emeritus in the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. Congratulations.
I now invite the directors of the schools to present the graduands for their awards.
Principal, in the name of the School of Drama, Dance, Production and Screen, and with the authority of the Academic Board of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, I present to you these graduands who have been found worthy to receive the degree of Bachelor of Arts Contemporary Performance Practice, with honours of the first class, Stephanie Katie Hunter. Craig Manson. Nima Sen. Gudrun Sigurðardóttir. William Stringer. With honours of the second class, David Gillen. Robbie Gordon. Corey McKendrick. Jack Nurse. Daniel Purvis. Joanne Sharp. And for the ordinary degree, Hamish Orr. With the authority of the Academic Board of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, I present to you these graduands who have been found worthy to receive the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Digital Film and Television. Lisa Ferguson. Ben Hunter. James McAlpin. Sorry, James. David McMahon. Kirsty McNeil. Elizabeth Ollie. Amber Simpson. Phoebe Watson.
Principal, in the name of the School of Music and with the authority of the Academic Board of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, I present to you these graduates who have been found worthy to receive the degree of Bachelor of Music. In composition with honours of the first class, Aaron Browning. With honours of the second class, Rory Comerford. In jazz, with honours of the first class, Graham Costello. Ewan Taylor. Joseph Williamson. With honours of the second class, Christopher Amer. Thomas Clay Harris. In joint composition and performance, with honours of the first class, Robert Allen. In performance with honours of the first class, Lewis Banks. Maria Donoghue. Charlotte Hodder. Inkere Kallio. Michael Lochery. Hazel Nguyen. Davidona Pittock. Beth Taylor. Donata Vaitkute. Josiah Walters. With honours of the second class, Kerry Alexander. Susanna Bedford. Laura Brown. Kevin Cahill. Jonathan Chapman. Karolina Chojnacka. Urte Zinelice. Graham Dixon. Lewis Dunsmore. Daniel Edison. Timothy Edmondson. Robert Forrest. Dermot Heffernan. Joan Blebarov. Jessica Hurst. Mark James. Nathan Jenkins. Jihen Jin. Marcus Kitchen. Jinhui Lai. Layla Marshall. Alexandra McFadgen. Ian McHugh. Molly McWhirter. Nicholas Montgomery. Louis Schmello. Ailish Oldfields. Emma Pantel. Campbell Parker. Daniel Pickering. Jacob Rosenberg. Megan Royce. Claire Ruckert. Sandra Scott. Anna Seaton. Anthony Smith. Grace Walker. Matthew Wilkinson. Yijun Yang. Yanzi Yao. Abigail Young. And Kieran Young. With the authority of the Academic Board of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, I request that you confer the appropriate degree upon those graduands listed as in absentia in the programme.
Principal, I present to you the winner of the Principal's Prize for All-Round Excellence in the School of Drama, Dance, Production and Screen, Gudrun Sigurðardóttir.
I now invite the Principal to confer the title of Professor.
Having been found worthy of the distinction, I confer upon you, David Watkin, the title of Professor of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, Spartan Noctus es Hunc Exona.
I, David Watkin, Professor of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, faithfully promise that I shall fulfil the duties and responsibilities entrusted to me here in the service of music to the best of my abilities.
Many congratulations. Lord Valence, honored guests, graduates, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this very special day. And may I start by offering my warmest congratulations to you, the members of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland's class of 2016. Congratulations. Every one of you sitting up here with me should be incredibly proud of what you've achieved. I'd like to thank you for what you've contributed to the community, both inside and outside of these walls, through what you have dreamed, created, and shared. We're also delighted today to have been able to celebrate and honor our new professors and our supportive friends, the Companion Emeriti. And it's always a special time to be able to congratulate our Honorary Doctor. Ralph, I'm honored to call you a friend. You're an inspiration for so many of us, and your words were just a wonderful example of that a few moments ago to inspire our graduates. For me, as David said, you're someone who makes no distinction between the twin pillars of artistry, of virtuosic performing and virtuosic teaching. And it's that kind of inspiration that inspires our conservatoire to develop a special program called Teach Arts for Scotland. So thank you for being here, and thank you for that inspiration. Now back to you, the class of 2016. You've shown yourselves to be great citizens of the Conservatoire, of Glasgow and Scotland, and you're about to go from here to be citizens of the world, and we want to send you out with all our love and encouragement to be the best that you can be. In thanking you and celebrating your achievements, there's a group of special people that you and I also have to thank for the part they've played in supporting you, and that's your family and friends who are here today to share this moment with you, and also those who are not able to be with us today. Graduates, just as they are celebrating your achievements, can I ask you to be upstanding and to applaud your audience as a way of saying thank you for being here and thank you for everything they have done to make your journey to the RCS possible. thank you again to our family and friends. Well, this is the moment in the speech where I am supposed to address graduates directly and offer, I hope, some words of wisdom. But I find, given recent events and the great uncertainty which now seems to be a permanent and ever-shifting fixture in all of our lives, that it's become pretty tough and almost an impossible task to think what I can say. Like many of you, I've felt great moments of anger or despondency over the last few weeks, possibly more intensely than any time I can remember before. I'm worried that so many of the values that you and I share and cherish, like those of equality, of empathy, and of breaking down rather than building up barriers, are being callously disregarded wherever we care to look. It truly saddens me that in the last few weeks alone, we've seen horrific violence in Orlando, Turkey, Bangladesh, and Baghdad, just to name a few. In the US presidential elections and right here in Britain's post-Brexit febrile environment, we've seen too many examples of Jonathan Swift's aphorism that falsehood flies and the truth comes limping after it. As human beings who live for creativity, empathy, and collaboration, this is not a world that we choose to recognize. As we see people retreating into prejudice, tribalism, and intolerance, we should be reminded of the words from the recently deceased Nobel Prize-winning author Elie Wiesel. He warned us all that the opposite of love is not hate, but indifference. On behalf of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland community, I say to all of you that we are and remain resolutely international, people-centric in both our community and our outlook. We exist to break down barriers and find the places of meaningful connection between peoples, between places, and especially here at the RCS, between art forms. Every person with the greatest potential to thrive here is welcome here, regardless of the color of their national flag or their skin, regardless of their faith, regardless of their economic background, regardless of their gender or their sexuality. As Scotland's National Conservatoire, this has been our mission. It is our mission, and it will continue to be our mission, regardless of those who say and do otherwise in this world. Ladies and gentlemen, the world is always welcome here at Renfrew Street, and we are all the better for that. So as the new graduates of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, you now go out into these uncertain times. And I encourage you to use everything that this place and the people you've encountered here in this city and this nation has given you over the last few years. Use your art, for it is art that enables us to express love and all the ranges of emotions more deeply and more effectively than simple written or spoken words, far more than ephemeral posts or texts or Snapchats. As our populations grow, as different peoples formerly kept apart come together, art builds bridges, explains actions and motivations, and shares joy. At a time when too many people feel they have no voice, that they're at the mercy of events and decisions beyond their control, at the point where they just might lose hope, we artists give them voice, and perhaps with a fair wind, we restore their hope. We articulate what people find too painful to say. We speak truth to power. We convene ideas, and we create communities when forces have set them asunder. We capture joy, we imprint memories, and we reveal hidden truths. In short, the world needs us. It needs you, perhaps now more than ever. As the world reeled once before, after the death of President Kennedy in 1963, the great Leonard Bernstein called on artists everywhere to respond by making art more intensely, more beautifully, and more devotedly than ever before. I send you from here with that same mission across art forms, across communities, and across nations, wherever your life leads you next. Name the unnameable, communicate the unknowable, and help us all find a way to a better and kinder future. Thank you. This congregation is now ended. Please be upstanding for our graduates.